So one thing I saw was the Iga region. Many of the samurai or the daimyo and all that stuff would just avoid the Iga region totally. If they had to go somewhere, they would make huge circles around that area to avoid it because it was known to have ninja in the area. And it was like, and I had read that it was almost a country by itself, like it was untouched by the rest of Japan. And a lot of times there were certain people that respected the Iga ninja, and they would ask permission if they could enter and cross their land instead of just doing it, you know. Which is funny because these guys who are supposed to be in charge of the whole of Japan having to ask.
You don't lose half your force.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Forget it. It's not worth it. So new information we have. First of all, this picture. I do have a picture. I'm going to bring it large. There. That is Togakureryu ninja armor. If they chose to wear it. And minimalistic. Yeah. There's not a whole lot to it, but it did. Yeah. I think so, yeah. And then that picture there with the foxes. That's from a video I took. I took a screenshot from it because I couldn't find pictures. So, Izuna no Ho used to be part of ninjutsu within this school, Togokure. As recent as 1742, it used small foxes that were bred and kept to divine the future, possess people, and other sorts of witchcraft-related things. Are they? Until you get bit. It said that they would use them to make people get ill, like illnesses, or literally possessing them, stuff like that. Which is why I always wondered, because I saw this is in the Hanbu Dojo, and I'm like, why is there foxes up there? And I never understood it. But that would explain it. And it's a superstitious thing, and the type of fox they would use were really small. There was a certain breed, but they were tiny, like really small, like even smaller, like maybe they said they could fit them inside of a tube, a whole bunch of them. Yeah, yeah, basically.
Like squirrels, big squirrels.
Yeah.
You see a big squirrel.
And there were certain shoguns and daimyos that had so much respect for this fox art that they would have people in their armies specifically doing that job to try and foretell the outcome of wars and stuff like that. They respected it for a long time. But it says, I didn't write it down, but it says that they were treated much like witches were in other countries. They were killed and burned, and it was considered bad. Bad voodoo. Zhang Wuxian is the Chinese name for Cho Busho, as in Gyokoryu. So when some people are trying to trace it back, Togakure and Gyoko, or this is Kukushinden, my bad. Kukushinden and Gyoko, they're trying to say, well, they weren't connected. But if you go back far enough in the original records, Zhang Wuxian, the Chinese name, is the same guy. Because one is Cho Busho in Gyokoryu, and one is Cho Busho with a different spelling in Kukushinden. So they were saying because of the different spelling, it's not the same guy. But this proved it is the same guy, just before he came to Japan. Famous story. This is out of Kumogakure now. Famous story is told about Hanzo and Yasu Tokugawa with Tokugawa before he was shogun. One day when he was 25 or 26, he grabbed Hanzo Hattori by the collar and dragged him to a river and held him under. While Hanzo calmly held his breath, Yasu had to break the surface, gasping for air. He crawled to the shore, weak and exhausted. How long can a ninja stay underwater? He asked. 2 days or so. However long you request of me, replied Hanzo. He then dove beneath the water. Several hours passed, and still there was no sign of him. Yasu and his retainers began calling out to him. Then Hanzo broke the surface of the water with bursting bubbles. Not only was he not out of breath, but he was smiling. He handed Ieyasu his short sword that he was wearing. Ieyasu was surprised. I was not underwater the whole time, Anzo explained. After I dove underneath the water, I swam to the other side and took a nap behind a rock. When I heard you calling, I swam back. The listeners were astonished. I'm sorry for taking your short sword, sir, but this is ninjutsu. Ieyasu was extremely impressed and later hired him. And he was in charge of those 200 ninja that we talked about before. And then he fired them. And he hired 200 more. And they're the ones that were standing in front of that gate. Remember the picture I showed you? Yeah. But the story about, that's the real story of, if you hear it, of the ninja going underwater and holding his breath for days or something. That's where the story comes from. But the point is trickery, right? The ninja can't literally hold his breath for 2 days. But he makes people think he can. He goes in and goes somewhere different, has a nap, you know. Yeah, absolutely. This picture, you can't see because it's not working. I'll put it down here. This is a woodblock print, which means in Japan there was guys that made art out of wood and just kind of carved into it. This is the first known public illustration of a ninja. The world-famous woodblock artist Katsuhisa Hokusai from 1760 to 1849.
Yeah, they did the Great Wave.
Yep, that's it. Yep, the big wave. That's a famous wave in Japan. So anyway, there might be illustrations in the scrolls and stuff, but as far as publicly, this is the first picture we have of it. We also have the scrolls of the Fukushima Ryu from 1467 to 1617. We will begin studying these shortly. The Nojita family controlled it, and Fujita Seiko of the Koka-ryu copied it. The details I found were a little bit muddy and hard to follow. Their secrets were guarded with their lives, and records were seldom kept that could expose them as ninja, which is why sometimes historians have a hard time tracking down ninja, because they literally tried to unliterally write it down. And that's all for history today.